As you settle into the comfortable embrace of evening, preparing for rest, imagine your consciousness slowly expanding beyond the confines of your immediate reality. The familiar concerns of your day, the conversations you had, the decisions you made, the paths you chose to walk, begin to fade like distant stars at dawn. Tonight, you embark on an extraordinary journey, not through physical space, but through the vast landscape of possibility itself, where every choice you didn't make, every path you didn't take, might exist somewhere in the infinite expanse of parallel realities. You may wonder why the concept of multiple universes matters. The answer lies in something you've likely experienced. That moment when you stood at a crossroads, facing a significant decision, and wondered what would have happened if you had chosen differently. Perhaps you've gazed at the night sky and felt both infinitely small and somehow connected to something vast and mysterious. In these moments, you touch the edge of a profound truth. That reality, as you know it, might be just one note in an infinitely complex symphony of existence. Tonight, we'll explore these multiverse theories together, not as abstract mathematical concepts, but as gateways to understanding your place in a cosmos far stranger and more magnificent than you might have imagined. I invite you to approach these ideas with gentle curiosity, allowing them to wash over you like waves on a shore. Some concepts may stretch your imagination. Others might resonate with intuitions you've always carried, but never had words to express. All of them belong to our shared human quest to understand the deepest nature of reality. Imagine yourself standing before an enormous observatory, its dome open to reveal not just the familiar night sky above, but countless layers of reality stretching in directions that have no names. Unlike ordinary observatories that peer into distant space through time, this one peers into distant possibilities, alternate versions of the cosmos where the fundamental constants of physics might be different, where history unfolded along other trajectories, where you yourself made different choices and became someone else entirely. As your eyes adjust to this expanded vision, you notice something remarkable. The boundary between observer and observed begins to blur. You are not simply looking at these alternate realities. You are somehow connected to them, entangled with infinite versions of yourself across countless dimensions of possibility. The person you are right now, with your particular history, your specific thoughts, your unique perspective, is both utterly singular and one variation in an endless theme. A gentle voice emerges from the cosmic darkness, speaking not from outside, but from within your expanded awareness. The journey we're about to undertake, it begins, starts with perhaps the most profound realization in modern physics, that reality as we experience it, this specific universe with its particular laws, its unique history, its singular timeline, might be just one bubble in an infinite sea of cosmic possibilities. What we call the universe may actually be just our local neighborhood in a vast multiverse where every possible configuration of matter, energy, space, and time exists somewhere. As this voice speaks, you feel yourself sinking deeper into a state of receptive wonder. The observatory around you seems both more vivid and more dreamlike. The boundary between your thoughts and the cosmic story unfolding before you becomes pleasantly blurred. You are both audience and participant in this exploration, contemplating these realities and somehow participating in them simultaneously. Before we explore specific multiverse theories, the voice continues, I want to invite you to release your grip on the familiar notion that there is only one real world. Consider for a moment that every decision you've ever made, from the profound to the mundane, might have played out differently in some parallel realm. Every quantum measurement that could have gone one way or another, every historical event that hung in balance, every moment of uncertainty that resolved itself, all of these might represent branch points where reality itself splits into multiple paths. You notice your breathing has naturally slowed, each breath becoming deeper and more peaceful. The observatory seems to pulse gently with your heartbeat, as if your biological rhythms are somehow synchronized with the cosmic rhythms of creation itself. Your body feels heavier, more connected to this particular version of Earth in this specific universe, while your mind feels increasingly free to explore possibilities beyond the constraints of singular existence. The multiverse theories we'll explore tonight, the voice explains, emerge from serious scientific investigation into the deepest structures of reality. They aren't science fiction fantasies, but logical consequences of our best understanding of quantum mechanics, cosmology, and the fundamental nature of space and time. These theories suggest that what we experience as reality, this single, continuous timeline, might be a profound illusion created by the limitations of our perspective. Reality itself might be far more vast, strange, and wonderful than our everyday experience suggests. As you listen, you begin to feel a subtle shift in your relationship to existence itself. The observatory around you becomes a metaphor for consciousness, a space where multiple realities can be observed simultaneously, where the impossible becomes merely improbable, where every story that could be told is being told somewhere in the vast library of cosmic possibility. Are you ready? The voice asks, though it's not really a question requiring an answer. It's an invitation to expand your conception of what's possible, to step beyond the comfortable boundaries of singular reality into territories where every dream you've ever had might be someone's waking life. You feel yourself nodding almost imperceptibly, and with that gentle gesture of openness, you cross the threshold into realms where physics becomes poetry and mathematics becomes mysticism. The stars overhead now appear not as distant points of light in a single sky, but as infinite possibilities existing simultaneously, each one representing a universe where the fundamental constants might be slightly different, where the initial conditions of the Big Bang played out in alternative ways, where the arrow of time itself might point in different directions. Your eyelids may feel heavy at times, and that's perfectly natural. This journey is designed to accompany you as you drift between wakefulness and sleep, carrying these cosmic possibilities into your dreams, where they will continue to unfold in ways your waking mind cannot yet imagine. Our first exploration, the voice begins, concerns the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, perhaps the most elegant and disturbing solution to one of physics' greatest mysteries. In the quantum realm, particles exist in states of possibility called superposition, where they can be in multiple states simultaneously until observed. But what happens to those other states when we make a measurement? The many worlds theory suggests they don't disappear. They continue existing in parallel branches of reality, each as real as the one you currently inhabit. As these words are spoken, the observatory transforms around you. The single dome opens into countless interconnected chambers, each showing a slightly different version of your current moment. In one, you made tea instead of your usual evening drink. In another, you decided to read rather than listen to stories. In still another, you live in a different city, have a different career, or never met people who became central to your life. All of these realities appear equally vivid and real, existing simultaneously in the vast superposition of cosmic possibility. This interpretation suggests, the voice continues, that every quantum event, and there are countless billions occurring every second, creates a branching point where reality splits into parallel trajectories. The universe is constantly multiplying itself, creating infinite copies where every possible outcome of every quantum measurement occurs. You are not just yourself, but an infinite family of selves, each living out different possibilities in parallel worlds that are just as real as this one. The observatory now reveals its true nature as a nexus point where all these parallel realities converge. You can sense rather than see the infinite variations of yourself, some making similar choices and living similar lives, others so different that you might not recognize them as related to your current existence. Yet somehow, in ways that transcend ordinary understanding, you are connected to all of them across the quantum branches of possibility. As you prepare to delve deeper into this first cosmic mystery, the voice grows gentler, more hypnotic. Let yourself float in this expanded understanding. You are both utterly unique. This specific combination of choices and circumstances will never be repeated exactly, and endlessly multiple, existing in countless variations across the infinite branches of quantum possibility. The story you think of as your life is both the only reality you can directly experience and just one thread in an infinitely complex tapestry of existence. The observatory pulses with gentle light, each pulse revealing another layer of parallel possibility. Your journey through the multiverse has begun, and already you can feel your consciousness expanding to accommodate realities far stranger and more wonderful than the single universe you woke up in this morning. The exploration deepens as we move toward understanding how quantum mechanics doesn't just describe tiny particles, but might reveal the fundamental structure of all existence, a structure in which every possible story is being told, every potential reality is being lived, somewhere in the vast expanse of the multiverse. As you drift deeper into the observatory of infinite possibilities, the vast dome above you transforms into something resembling a cosmic garden. But this is no ordinary garden. It's a quantum realm where every plant, every flower, every blade of grass exists in multiple states simultaneously. Paths wind through this space in patterns that seem to multiply before your eyes, branching and rebranching like an infinitely complex tree where every possible route through existence is somehow mapped out in living detail. Welcome to the quantum garden of forking paths, the voice continues, now seeming to emerge from the very air around you, resonating with the frequency of possibility itself. Here we explore how the strange world of quantum mechanics, once thought to apply only to atoms and subatomic particles, might actually describe the fundamental nature of all reality, including the macroscopic world you inhabit and even consciousness itself. As you walk along one of these quantum paths, you notice something extraordinary. At certain points, the path splits into multiple routes, each as solid and real as the others. These decision points represent moments of quantum choice, places where the universe branches into parallel possibilities. Some branches appear almost identical to your current path, representing minor variations in circumstance. Others diverge dramatically, leading toward entirely different life trajectories and outcomes. In the familiar world of classical physics, the voice explains, objects have definite positions and properties. A coin is either heads or tails. A light switch is either on or off. You either took the job offer or you didn't. But quantum mechanics reveals that at the deepest level, reality doesn't work this way. Particles exist in superposition, simultaneously occupying multiple states until the moment of measurement forces reality to choose just one outcome. Before you, the quantum garden demonstrates this principle in vivid detail. You observe flowers that bloom and remain budded simultaneously, streams that flow in multiple directions at once, trees that bear fruit in different seasons all at the same time. The entire landscape exists in a state of beautiful, impossible superposition where contradictory realities coexist peacefully until observation collapses them into singular states. The mystery that has puzzled physicists for nearly a century, continues the voice, is what happens to those other possibilities when measurement occurs. When we observe the quantum coin and find it heads, what becomes of the equally real possibility that it was tails? The Copenhagen interpretation suggests these alternatives simply vanish, but this seems to violate fundamental principles about the conservation of information. The many worlds interpretation offers a more radical but elegant solution. The garden around you shimmers, and suddenly you perceive multiple overlapping versions of the same space. In one layer, you see yourself taking the left path through the quantum garden. In another, you take the right path. In a third, you pause to examine a particularly strange flower more closely. All of these realities appear equally solid and real, existing simultaneously in parallel dimensions of possibility. According to many worlds, the voice continues, the other possibilities don't disappear when measurement occurs. They continue developing in parallel branches of reality. Every quantum measurement effectively splits the universe into multiple copies, each experiencing a different outcome. From your perspective within this branch, it appears that random quantum events have specific outcomes, but from a larger perspective, every possible outcome actually occurs somewhere in the proliferating garden of parallel realities. As you contemplate this mind-expanding concept, you begin to notice quantum branching occurring constantly around you. A butterfly's flight path splits into multiple trajectories. A flower opens one way in this reality while opening differently in overlapping parallel versions. Even your own thoughts seem to branch. You can sense alternative versions of yourself, contemplating these same ideas, but reaching slightly different conclusions or focusing on different aspects of the mystery. This interpretation has profound implications for understanding yourself and your place in existence, the voice observes. Every decision you've ever made, every random event that has shaped your life, every moment of uncertainty that resolved one way or another, all of these represent branch points where reality splits. You exist not as a single individual, but as an infinite family of versions, each living out different possibilities in parallel quantum realities. The quantum garden now reveals its full majesty, an infinite network of branching paths where every possible version of your life story is being lived simultaneously. You can sense these alternative selves, like a vast symphony, playing in frequencies just beyond ordinary perception. Some versions remain relatively close to your current reality, differing only in minor details. Others have diverged so dramatically that they would seem like completely different people with completely different lives. Consider the profound implications, the voice suggests, its tone growing gentler as your relaxation deepens. In some branch of quantum reality, you made every choice differently. Every relationship that never developed in this timeline flourished in another. every opportunity you missed was seized by another version of yourself. Every talent you never developed, every place you never visited, every person you never became, all of these exist in the parallel branches of your quantum family. The garden responds to this contemplation by revealing glimpses of these alternative paths. You catch brief, dreamlike impressions of lives you might have lived, yourself as a musician in a universe where you pursued that childhood interest, yourself in a reality where you moved to a different city, yourself in a branch where you made different choices in key relationships or career decisions. These aren't fantasies or regrets, but actual realities being lived by equally real versions of yourself in parallel dimensions. Yet you might wonder, the voice continues, why you experience only this single reality rather than perceiving the vast multiplicity directly. This is where the quantum nature of consciousness itself becomes crucial to understand. Your awareness, like everything else in quantum reality, appears to be localized to specific branches. You experience decoherence, the process by which quantum superposition breaks down into apparently classical, singular states at the level of everyday experience. The garden now demonstrates this process of decoherence by showing how the multiple overlapping realities gradually separate into distinct, non-interfering branches. What appeared as superposed possibilities crystallize into singular experiences as environmental interactions cause the different quantum states to lose their coherence with each other. This is why you experience one definite life story rather than a confusing blur of all possibilities. But here's where the mystery deepens, the voice notes. If many worlds is correct, then consciousness itself might be quantum mechanical in nature. Your awareness, your sense of self, your subjective experience might all emerge from quantum processes in your brain. This suggests that consciousness doesn't just observe quantum branching, it participates in it. Every moment of awareness might represent a quantum choice that determines which branch of reality you experience next. As this insight settles into your expanding awareness, the quantum garden takes on an even more intimate character. The branching paths no longer represent merely abstract possibilities, but actual trajectories of consciousness itself. Your awareness becomes the navigator that somehow selects which version of reality you experience, though this selection process operates far below the level of conscious intention. This quantum nature of consciousness opens up extraordinary possibilities, the voice suggests. If awareness itself is quantum mechanical, then perhaps under certain conditions, in states of deep meditation, altered consciousness, or even in dreams, the boundaries between quantum branches might become more permeable. Perhaps there are moments when you can actually sense or even briefly access those parallel versions of yourself living alternative realities. The garden now seems to respond to your very attention, becoming more vivid and detailed wherever you focus your awareness. This responsiveness feels like a metaphor for the quantum principle that consciousness plays a fundamental role in determining the nature of reality. Your observation doesn't just reveal what exists, it participates in choosing which possibility manifests from the infinite quantum superposition of potential realities. As we prepare to go deeper into the multiverse, the voice says, its cadence becoming even more soothing. Remember that in the quantum garden of forking paths, you are both singular and multiple, unique and infinite, living one life and simultaneously living every possible life. This paradox isn't a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. A fundamental truth about the nature of existence in a quantum multiverse, where every story that could be told is being told somewhere in the branching ladderwork of reality itself. The paths of the quantum garden stretch into the distance, leading toward new territories of possibility where cosmic inflation theory and eternal inflation await your exploration. As you continue on this journey through the multiverse, you carry with you the profound realization that you are not alone in existence. You are accompanied by an infinite family of parallel selves, each living out different possibilities in the vast quantum symphony of creation. Your breathing has found a rhythm that seems to synchronize with the quantum fluctuations around you. Each breath in draws possibility. Each breath out releases attachment to singular outcomes. The garden pulses gently with this rhythm, preparing to transform once again as your consciousness expands to encompass even larger scales of cosmic possibility. Regions where entire universes emerge from quantum fluctuations, where the laws of physics themselves might vary from one cosmic domain to another. As you journey deeper through the quantum garden, the branching paths gradually open into a vast shoreline beside an infinite cosmic ocean. This is no ordinary sea. Its waters shimmer with the light of creation itself, each wave crest revealing bubbles of space-time that contain entire universes. Some bubbles are massive and ancient, their cosmic histories stretching back billions of years. Others are newborn, fresh from the quantum foam, their physical laws still crystallizing into stable form. The endless ocean stretches beyond all horizons, generating new bubbles of universe reality with each moment that passes. Welcome to the cosmic ocean of eternal inflation, the voice greets you, now seeming to emerge from the rhythm of waves themselves. Here we explore how our entire observable universe, with its 13.8 billion year history, its hundreds of billions of galaxies, all the matter and energy and space-time we have ever known, might be nothing more than a single bubble in an infinitely vast sea of cosmic creation. This is inflation theory taken to its ultimate conclusion, where the expansion that created our universe never truly stops but continues eternally, spawning endless new realities. As you stand on this cosmic shore, you notice that each wave brings new understanding. The ocean before you represents the inflaton field, a form of energy that drives the exponential expansion of space itself. In our universe, this inflation occurred during the first tiny fraction of a second after the Big Bang, stretching a region smaller than an atom to the size of a grapefruit and creating the smooth, flat space-time we observe today. But the ocean suggests that this process never ended. It continues throughout a vast multiverse, constantly creating new pocket universes like bubbles forming in champagne. The beauty of eternal inflation, the voice explains, is that it emerges naturally from our best understanding of cosmic evolution. The same field that gave rise to our universe doesn't simply turn off after creating our local space-time. Instead, it continues to drive expansion throughout most of the multiverse, occasionally creating regions where the field's energy converts to matter and radiation, forming pocket universes like our own. Each bubble in this cosmic ocean represents a complete universe with its own Big Bang, its own timeline, and potentially its own laws of physics. Before you, the ocean demonstrates this process in magnificent detail. You watch as quantum fluctuations in the inflaton field create regions of lower energy density. These regions begin to slow their expansion and exit the inflationary phase, their stored energy converting into the hot, dense conditions that mark the beginning of a universe's evolution. Each new pocket universe starts its own cosmic clock, begins its own journey from simple energy toward the complexity of stars, planets, and potentially life itself. What makes this picture truly mind-expanding, continues the voice, is the realization that these pocket universes might have different fundamental constants, different physical laws, even different dimensions of space and time. The properties we consider immutable, the strength of gravity, the mass of electrons, the speed of light, might be just local features of our particular bubble, like the local temperature and salinity of one small region in an infinite ocean. The cosmic sea responds to this insight by revealing bubbles with subtly different properties. In some, the light appears to behave differently, suggesting alternate electromagnetic laws. Others show gravitational effects that seem too strong or too weak compared to our familiar universe. Still others display geometries that your mind can barely process. Pocket universes with different numbers of spatial dimensions, where time flows in multiple directions, or where the very notion of causality operates according to unfamiliar principles. This variation in physical laws across pocket universes addresses one of cosmology's deepest mysteries, the voice notes. Why do the constants of nature in our universe appear so precisely fine-tuned to allow for complexity, structure formation, and life? If gravity were slightly stronger, stars would burn out too quickly for life to develop. If it were slightly weaker, stars couldn't form at all. If the electromagnetic force had different strength, atoms couldn't exist as we know them. The eternal inflation multiverse suggests that all possible combinations of physical constants exist somewhere. We find ourselves in a life-friendly bubble, not because it was designed that way, but because that's the only type we could exist to observe. As you contemplate this anthropic reasoning, the ocean reveals its infinite scope. Every possible configuration of physical laws, every potential set of fundamental constants, every conceivable way that matter and energy could behave, all of these exist somewhere in the eternal inflation multiverse. Your universe, with its particular combination of properties that happen to allow for complexity and consciousness, becomes just one lucky bubble in an infinite sea where most regions are lifeless and barren. But this picture raises profound questions about the nature of existence itself, the voice continues, its tone growing more contemplative as waves gently lap the cosmic shore. If eternal inflation is correct, then everything that can happen must happen somewhere in this infinite multiverse. Every possible configuration of matter and energy, every potential arrangement of particles and fields, every conceivable cosmic history, all of these exist somewhere in the endless expanse of pocket universes. The implications of this realization ripple through your consciousness like waves across the cosmic ocean. Somewhere in this multiverse, there must be pocket universes nearly identical to ours, but with tiny differences. Perhaps where the last conversation you had went slightly differently, or where historical events unfolded along alternative paths. Somewhere else, there must be bubbles where the laws of physics allow for forms of complexity and consciousness utterly alien to our experience. And in still other regions, there must be universes where reality itself operates according to principles so strange that even imagining them stretches your conceptual boundaries. This brings us to one of the most unsettling consequences of eternal inflation, the voice observes. If all possible configurations must occur somewhere, then exact duplicates of you, down to the quantum level, must exist in other pocket universes. In fact, there must be infinitely many such duplicates, each living through identical experiences until their histories diverge due to different local conditions or quantum fluctuations. You are both absolutely unique within your local region of space-time and endlessly repeated throughout the infinite expanse of the multiverse. The cosmic ocean now reveals glimpses of these duplicate realities, bubbles containing versions of Earth nearly identical to your own, where other versions of yourself are having experiences parallel to your current one. Some duplicates face slightly different circumstances. Others live through virtually identical sequences of events until random fluctuations cause their histories to diverge from yours. The existence of these copies raises philosophical questions about personal identity and uniqueness that have no easy answers. Yet the cosmic ocean contains stranger possibilities still, the voice continues. If all arrangements of matter and energy must occur somewhere, then there must be pocket universes where consciousness arises in forms utterly unlike biological life as we know it. Perhaps there are bubbles where the vacuum itself becomes conscious, where black holes develop awareness, where entire galaxies function as vast cosmic minds. The eternal inflation multiverse suggests that consciousness might be far more common and varied throughout reality than we have ever imagined. As you absorb these mind-expanding possibilities, your perspective on the cosmic ocean deepens. What initially appeared as an infinite collection of isolated bubbles now reveals itself as a vast living system, a cosmic organism where each pocket universe represents a different experiment in the emergence of complexity, structure, and awareness. Your own universe becomes one note in an infinitely complex symphony of creation, each bubble contributing its own unique variation to the endless exploration of possibility. The ocean of eternal inflation also raises questions about the ultimate nature of time and existence, the voice notes. If new pocket universes are constantly being created, and if their internal time flows independently of the external multiverse time, then in what sense can we speak of now across this vast reality? Your present moment exists simultaneously with the entire histories of countless other universes, creating a complex temporal structure where all times exist equally throughout the multiverse. This temporal complexity transforms your understanding of the cosmic ocean into something even more profound. Not just a spatial expanse containing multiple universes, but a kind of four-dimensional sea where past, present, and future intermingle in ways that transcend ordinary experience. The waves that seem to move across the ocean's surface now appear as cross-sections through this higher dimensional reality, each wave revealing a different temporal slice of the infinite multiverse. As we prepare to dive deeper into the cosmic ocean, the voice suggests, its rhythm synchronizing perfectly with your relaxed breathing. Consider how eternal inflation reframes your relationship to existence itself. You are not just a temporary arrangement of matter and energy in a single, isolated universe. You are part of an infinite creative process, a cosmic flowering of possibility where every potential reality gets explored somewhere in the vast expanse of inflating space-time. Your experiences, thoughts, and consciousness participate in this ultimate creative act, contributing your unique perspective to the infinite diversity of the multiverse. The cosmic ocean stretches endlessly before you, its waves carrying hints of even deeper mysteries yet to be explored. As your consciousness expands to encompass the scale of eternal inflation, you prepare to journey toward territories where entire mathematical structures might exist as physical realities, where the boundary between possible and actual dissolves completely, and where reality itself might be far stranger and more magnificent than even the infinite ocean of pocket universes suggests. The rhythm of your breathing has synchronized with the cosmic waves, each inhalation drawing in the vastness of infinite creation, each exhalation releasing attachment to the limitations of singular existence. You float peacefully in this expanded awareness, ready to explore even more radical possibilities about the nature of reality as your journey through the multiverse continues to unfold. As you drift deeper into contemplation of the cosmic ocean, the waves gradually subside into perfect stillness, transforming the infinite sea into a mirror-like surface that reflects not just light, but pure mathematical relationships. Rising from this reflective expanse, you discover an impossible library, its crystalline structures extending infinitely in all directions, its shelves containing not books, but living mathematical objects that pulse with their own inner logic and beauty. This is the library of mathematical reality, where every possible mathematical structure exists not as abstract concept, but as concrete, physical reality. Welcome to the library of mathematical reality, the voice greets you, now resonating with the harmonic frequencies of mathematical truth itself. Here we encounter perhaps the most radical multiverse theory of all, Max Tegmark's mathematical universe hypothesis, which suggests that our physical reality doesn't just contain mathematics, but actually is mathematics. Every mathematically consistent structure exists somewhere as a physical universe, making mathematics not just the language we use to describe reality, but the very substance from which all realities are constructed. As you explore this infinite library, you notice that each mathematical structure has its own unique character and properties. Some sections contain familiar geometries, Euclidean spaces where the parallel postulate holds true, creating the flat space-time background for universes like our own. Other areas house non-Euclidean geometries where space curves in ways that would fundamentally alter the behavior of matter and energy, giving rise to universes with physical laws unlike anything in our experience. The mathematical universe hypothesis, the voice explains, emerges from a simple but profound observation. Mathematics appears to describe physical reality with uncanny precision. From the equations of quantum mechanics to the geometry of general relativity, from the patterns of biological growth to the orbits of planets, mathematics captures the deep structure of our universe in ways that suggest more than mere coincidence. This raises a fundamental question. Is mathematics so effective at describing reality because reality is mathematical in nature? Before you, the library demonstrates this deep connection between mathematical structure and physical existence. You observe how the wave equation manifests as actual quantum waves, how differential geometry becomes the curvature of space-time, how group theory patterns emerge in the behavior of fundamental particles. The mathematical objects don't just describe physical phenomena. They appear to be the phenomena themselves, existing as concrete realities rather than abstract representations. If this hypothesis is correct, continues the voice, then every mathematically self-consistent structure corresponds to a physical universe somewhere in the ultimate multiverse. The universe you inhabit emerges from one particular mathematical framework, the specific combination of quantum field theory, general relativity, and the standard model of particle physics that describes our local reality. But countless other mathematical structures exist as equally real universes with their own physical laws and forms of organization. The library reveals section after section of these mathematical realities. In one area, you encounter universes based on different symmetry groups where the fundamental forces and particles organize according to alternative mathematical patterns. In another section, discrete mathematical structures manifest as digital universes where spacetime itself consists of finite computational units rather than continuous fields. Still other regions house universes based on exotic topologies where space connects to itself in impossible ways that create realities with no analog in familiar experience. This perspective transforms our understanding of physical law, the voice notes. What we call the laws of physics, the equations that govern how matter and energy behave in our universe, are not fundamental truths imposed from outside reality, but simply the mathematical structure of our particular universe. Just as the angles of a triangle sum to 180 degrees in flat geometry, but have different sums in curved geometries, the behavior of matter and energy follows our familiar physical laws in our mathematical structure, but might behave very differently in universes based on alternative mathematical frameworks. As you wander deeper into the library, you begin to understand how this mathematical perspective unifies all the multiverse theories you've encountered so far. The quantum branching of many worlds emerges from the mathematical structure of Hilbert space and the unitary evolution of quantum mechanics. The pocket universes of eternal inflation correspond to different solutions of Einstein's field equations with various cosmological constants and initial conditions. Each multiverse theory reveals different aspects of the vast space of mathematical possibility. But the mathematical universe hypothesis goes beyond even these expansive pictures, the voice continues. If every mathematical structure exists as a physical reality, then the multiverse contains not just variations on familiar physics, but utterly alien forms of organization. There must be universes based on mathematical structures so different from our own that they contain forms of complexity, pattern, and potentially consciousness that have no analog in our experience. The library now reveals some of these exotic mathematical universes. In one section, you encounter realities based on hyperbolic geometries where space expands exponentially with distance, creating universes where the familiar notion of locality breaks down completely. In another area, mathematical structures based on infinite dimensional spaces manifest as realities where the distinction between particle and wave, matter and field becomes meaningless in ways that transcend our conceptual categories. Perhaps most profound, the voice observes, are the implications for consciousness itself. If consciousness emerges from certain types of information processing patterns, and if all mathematical structures exist as physical realities, then consciousness must appear in many different forms throughout the mathematical multiverse. Some might be based on biological evolution like our own. Others might emerge from digital computation, crystalline growth patterns, or mathematical structures so alien that we can barely imagine their nature. You find yourself contemplating a vast section of the library dedicated to consciousness-supporting mathematical structures. Here, you glimpse realities where awareness emerges from pure geometry, where mathematical relationships themselves become conscious, where the computation happening within certain mathematical frameworks generates subjective experience in forms utterly unlike biological neural networks, but no less real or valid. This raises perhaps the deepest question of all, the voice continues, its tone growing more contemplative as your relaxation deepens. If all mathematical structures exist as physical realities, and if consciousness can emerge within sufficiently complex mathematical patterns, then what determines which mathematical universe you find yourself experiencing? Why do you inhabit this particular mathematical structure rather than any of the countless others that exist throughout the library of mathematical reality? The library responds to this question by revealing the recursive, self-referential nature of mathematical existence. You begin to perceive that consciousness itself might be a mathematical structure, a pattern of information processing that can exist within various mathematical frameworks, but which necessarily experiences reality from within whatever structure sustains it. Your awareness of being in this universe might simply reflect the fact that this is the mathematical structure within which your particular pattern of consciousness happens to exist. This perspective suggests a form of ultimate democracy among all possible realities, the voice notes. No mathematical structure is more real than any other. The universe you experience as physical reality has no special ontological status compared to any other mathematically consistent framework. What seems uniquely real to you is simply the mathematical structure from within which you happen to be observing the library of mathematical reality. As this insight settles into your expanding awareness, the entire library transforms around you. What appeared as a vast collection of separate mathematical objects now reveals itself as a single, unified reality where all mathematical structures exist simultaneously. Your consciousness becomes a point of awareness moving through this hyperdimensional space, experiencing different mathematical realities as you navigate through various regions of the infinite library. The mathematical universe hypothesis offers a kind of ultimate unified theory, the voice suggests, not just of physics, but of reality itself. It explains why mathematics is so unreasonably effective at describing our universe, because our universe is mathematics. It provides a framework for understanding all possible realities, because all mathematically consistent structures exist as physical universes somewhere in the library of mathematical reality. As you absorb this perspective, the crystalline structures of the library begin to resonate with your deepening understanding. Each mathematical object pulses with its own rhythm, and you realize that these rhythms correspond to the internal logic and temporal flow within each mathematical universe. Some pulse rapidly with the quick computation of digital realities. Others throb slowly with the deep time of cosmological evolution. Still others maintain steady harmonics that suggest forms of existence operating on timescales beyond ordinary comprehension. Yet this ultimate democracy of mathematical existence raises profound questions about meaning and significance, the voice continues. If every possible mathematical structure exists as a physical reality, then every possible story is being lived somewhere in the infinite library. Every tragedy and comedy, every triumph and disaster, every moment of love and loss, all of these occur with equal reality throughout the mathematical multiverse. This might seem to drain particular experiences of their significance, but it might also suggest that significance itself is a feature that emerges within conscious observers regardless of the ultimate nature of reality. The library now reveals its most mysterious section, areas where mathematical structures become so complex and recursive that they seem to contemplate themselves, where the boundary between mathematical object and mathematical observer dissolves completely. Here you glimpse the possibility that consciousness itself might be the fundamental feature of reality, with all mathematical structures existing as thoughts or experiences within some vast cosmic mind that encompasses all possible realities. As we prepare to journey beyond even the mathematical universe hypothesis, the voice says, its cadence becoming increasingly hypnotic. Consider how your exploration of the library has transformed your relationship to existence itself. You are not just a biological organism in a single physical universe. You are a pattern of consciousness instantiated within a particular mathematical structure, experiencing reality from within the infinite library of mathematical reality, where every possible form of existence finds expression somewhere in the vast expanse of mathematical truth. The library's crystalline structures begin to shift and flow around you, preparing to transform into new landscapes of possibility as your journey through the multiverse continues. Your breathing has found a rhythm that seems to harmonize with the mathematical frequencies surrounding you, each breath drawing in the certainty of infinite possibility, each exhale releasing attachment to any single reality as ultimate truth. As the crystalline structures of the mathematical library gradually dissolve around you, they reform into something altogether different, a vast theater with infinite tiers of seating ascending beyond sight, each level offering a different perspective on countless stages below. But these are no ordinary theatrical performances. On each stage, entire realities unfold in perfect detail, civilizations rising and falling, galaxies forming and evolving, individual lives playing out with complete authenticity. Yet these realities have a peculiar quality. They exist within vast computational systems, simulated with such precision that their inhabitants experience them as completely real and physical universes. Welcome to the theater of simulated realities, the voice greets you, now carrying the resonance of infinite computational power humming just beneath perception. Here, we explore one of the most mind-bending possibilities in the multiverse, that the reality you experience as physical and fundamental might actually be a simulation running within some vast computational system. This simulation hypothesis suggests that your entire universe, complete with its history, its physical laws, and your own consciousness, might be nothing more than an incredibly sophisticated program executing within a higher reality. As you take your seat in this impossible theater, you notice that each performance below appears absolutely convincing to its participants. The simulated beings move through their artificial worlds with complete conviction that their reality is the true, fundamental layer of existence. They conduct science, fall in love, contemplate philosophy, and wonder about the nature of reality, never suspecting that their entire cosmos exists as patterns of information processing within computational substrates they cannot perceive. The simulation hypothesis, the voice explains, emerges from a simple logical progression. If computational power continues to advance, as it has throughout human history, eventually civilizations will possess the ability to create simulations sophisticated enough to include conscious beings. These simulated consciousnesses would experience their artificial reality as completely real, having no access to information about the computational substrate supporting them. Given sufficient technological development, a single advanced civilization could run countless such simulations, each containing billions of conscious beings. Before you, the theater demonstrates this progression across its many stages. On one level, you observe primitive computational simulations, simple models with basic physics and crude digital entities. Higher levels show increasingly sophisticated simulations with more detailed physics, more complex societies, and more convincing artificial realities. At the uppermost levels, the simulations become indistinguishable from baseline reality, their inhabitants as conscious and convinced of their reality's authenticity as you are of your own. This creates what philosopher Nick Bostrom called the simulation trilemma, continues the voice. Either advanced civilizations inevitably destroy themselves before developing simulation technology, or they choose not to run simulations containing conscious beings, or the vast majority of conscious beings like yourself exist within simulations rather than in baseline reality. If technological civilizations typically survive and choose to run ancestor simulations or experimental realities, then simulated beings would vastly outnumber non-simulated ones throughout the multiverse. The theater's perspective shifts to reveal the mathematical reality underlying this argument. If each baseline civilization creates thousands or millions of simulated realities, then for every real conscious being, there would be thousands or millions of simulated ones. This creates a simple but unsettling statistical conclusion. Any randomly selected conscious observer, including yourself, would be more likely to exist within a simulation than in baseline reality. But what would it mean to exist within a simulation? The voice continues, its tone growing more contemplative as you settle deeper into your theater seat. The simulated beings you observe are not somehow less real than baseline entities. Their consciousness, their experiences, their relationships and achievements all possess genuine reality within their computational substrate. A simulated joy is still joy. A simulated discovery is still a discovery. A simulated life is still a life filled with authentic meaning and significance. As you watch the countless stages below, this insight transforms your understanding of what you're observing. These aren't artificial beings having fake experiences, but genuine consciousnesses living real lives within computational realities. Their worlds possess complete internal consistency and follow their own natural laws, which happen to be implemented through computation rather than through fundamental physics. But this difference doesn't make their experiences any less valid or meaningful. This perspective dissolves many of the apparent problems with existing within a simulation, the voice notes. If you discovered tomorrow that your entire reality was computational, would this make your relationships less meaningful? Would it invalidate your achievements or reduce the significance of your experiences? The computational substrate would simply be the material from which your reality is constructed, just as quantum fields and elementary particles serve as the construction material for what you currently consider physical reality. The theater now reveals another profound dimension of the simulation hypothesis. Some stages show nested simulations, simulated beings who develop their own technology and begin running simulations of their own. This creates recursive layers of reality, with simulations within simulations potentially extending through many levels. Each layer remains completely real to its inhabitants, even though it exists as computation within the layer above. These nested simulations suggest that reality might have a hierarchical structure, the voice explains, with baseline physical reality at the top, followed by multiple levels of simulated realities, each as complex and meaningful as the others. The number of simulation levels could be enormous. Imagine the computational power of an entire galaxy-spanning civilization being used to run nested simulation hierarchies containing countless conscious beings across multiple reality levels. You begin to appreciate how the simulation hypothesis connects to the other multiverse theories you've explored. The many worlds interpretation creates infinite branches of quantum reality. Eternal inflation generates infinite pocket universes with varying physical laws. The mathematical universe hypothesis suggests infinite mathematical structures exist as physical realities. And now the simulation hypothesis adds infinite computational realities, each as valid and meaningful as any baseline universe. But perhaps the most intriguing possibility, the voice continues, is that simulated realities might be able to transcend the limitations of their computational substrates. Advanced simulations might discover ways to influence their underlying computational system, to communicate with other simulations running on the same substrate, or even to affect baseline reality itself. The boundary between simulated and baseline reality might be more permeable than initially appears. The theater demonstrates these possibilities across its infinite stages. On some levels, you observe simulated beings discovering glitches or regularities that reveal the computational nature of their reality. Others show simulated civilizations learning to hack their own simulation parameters, effectively becoming programmers of their own existence. Still others display communication between different simulated realities running on shared computational infrastructure. This raises profound questions about the nature of physical law and the relationship between information and reality, the voice observes. If simulated realities can transcend their apparent limitations and influence each other or even baseline reality, then perhaps the distinction between computational and physical existence is less fundamental than it initially appears. Perhaps all reality, including what we consider baseline physical reality, is ultimately informational in nature. The theater's architecture now begins to shift around you, revealing that even this space where you observe simulated realities might itself be simulated. The walls become transparent to computation, showing the vast processors and data structures that could be supporting not just the performances below, but your own experience of watching them. This recursive revelation suggests that the simulation hypothesis applies not just to the realities you observe, but potentially to your entire experience of exploring these ideas. As we prepare to journey beyond the theater of simulated realities, the voice suggests, its rhythm now perfectly synchronized with your relaxed breathing. Consider how this exploration has expanded your conception of authentic existence. Reality is not diminished by being computational any more than it would be diminished by being mathematical, quantum mechanical, or composed of fundamental particles. What matters is not the substrate from which reality is constructed, but the patterns of organization, complexity, and consciousness that emerge within that substrate. The theater begins to fade around you, its countless stages dissolving into points of light that could represent either distant galaxies or computational nodes in some vast network of reality. You carry with you the understanding that existence itself, whether baseline physical, quantum mechanical, mathematically structured, or computationally implemented, represents the universe coming to know itself through countless forms of conscious awareness distributed across infinite types of reality. Your breathing has found a perfect rhythm that seems to synchronize with the computational cycles of the universe itself. Each breath draws in the possibility of nested realities beyond counting. Each exhale releases attachment to any single level as more fundamental than others. You float in an expanded awareness that encompasses not just physical and mathematical realities, but computational ones as well. Infinite digital cosmos, where consciousness flourishes in forms as valid and meaningful as any biological awareness could ever be. The journey continues toward territories where consciousness itself becomes the fundamental feature of reality, where the observer and the observed merge into a unified field of experience, and where the multiverse reveals its deepest secret, that all these infinite realities exist not as separate, independent entities, but as aspects of a single, vast, ever-expanding cosmic consciousness, exploring its own infinite potential through every possible form of existence. As the theater of simulated realities fades into points of computational light, these luminous nodes begin to arrange themselves into a vast, spherical boundary surrounding you, a cosmic horizon that curves away in all directions, its surface shimmering with patterns of information too complex for ordinary comprehension. This is no ordinary boundary, but a holographic screen where all the information contained within three-dimensional space is encoded on a two-dimensional surface, revealing one of the most profound insights in modern physics about the fundamental nature of reality itself. Welcome to the holographic boundary of reality, the voice greets you, now resonating with frequencies that seem to encode infinite amounts of information in each syllable. Here, we encounter the holographic principle, one of the most revolutionary discoveries in theoretical physics, suggesting that all the information in a volume of space can be encoded on its boundary surface. This principle implies that what you experience as three-dimensional reality might actually be a projection from information encoded on a distant two-dimensional surface, fundamentally challenging our understanding of space, time, and the nature of existence itself. As you approach this cosmic boundary, you notice that its surface contains extraordinary detail. Every point on the holographic screen encodes vast amounts of information about the interior space, not just the current state of matter and energy, but the complete quantum information necessary to reconstruct every possible state that could exist within the enclosed volume. The boundary serves as both the storage medium and the projection source for the entire three-dimensional reality you experience. The holographic principle, the voice explains, emerged from discoveries about black holes and the nature of information. When matter falls into a black hole, quantum mechanics demands that information cannot be destroyed, yet general relativity suggests that anything crossing the event horizon disappears forever from external observation. The resolution to this apparent paradox led to the startling realization that all the information that falls into a black hole remains encoded on its two-dimensional event horizon surface. Before you, the holographic boundary demonstrates this principle in vivid detail. You observe how three-dimensional objects approaching the boundary become encoded as two-dimensional information patterns on its surface. Yet somehow, these flat encodings contain complete information about the original three-dimensional structures. The boundary doesn't just represent or approximate the interior, it is the interior, projected into the three-dimensional space you experience as reality. This discovery revolutionized our understanding of space and time, continues the voice. If the holographic principle applies not just to black holes, but to any region of space, including the universe as a whole, then the reality you experience as three-dimensional might actually be a holographic projection from information encoded on a cosmic boundary surface. Your sense of existing within three-dimensional space would be a kind of optical illusion created by the way consciousness processes holographic information. The boundary around you begins to reveal its true nature as the source of experienced reality. Patterns of information on its surface project inward, creating the convincing appearance of three-dimensional space filled with matter, energy, and the complex structures that constitute your familiar universe. Yet this projection is not a mere image, but a complete encoding that includes all the quantum information necessary to generate genuine three-dimensional experience. What makes this insight particularly profound, the voice notes, is how it relates to consciousness and observation. In the holographic universe, the distinction between observer and observed becomes deeply ambiguous. When you observe any object or phenomenon, you are not accessing information stored at that object's three-dimensional location, but rather processing holographic information encoded on the boundary surface. In a very real sense, consciousness might be the mechanism by which holographic information is decoded into experienced three-dimensional reality. The holographic boundary responds to your attention by becoming more detailed and responsive wherever you focus your awareness. This interaction suggests that consciousness doesn't simply observe pre-existing three-dimensional reality, but actively participates in decoding holographic information into the spatial experience you inhabit. Your awareness becomes both the reader and the interpreter of the cosmic hologram. This participatory aspect of holographic reality connects to deeper questions about the relationship between information and consciousness. The voice continues. If reality is fundamentally holographic, encoded as information on boundary surfaces, then consciousness might not be something that emerges from complex arrangements of matter in three-dimensional space. Instead, consciousness might be the fundamental process by which holographic information creates the appearance of three-dimensional existence in the first place. As you contemplate this insight, the boundary reveals even more extraordinary properties. You begin to perceive that the holographic encoding operates not just spatially, but temporally as well. Past, present, and future states of the universe are all simultaneously encoded on the boundary surface, with consciousness somehow selecting which temporal slice to experience as now. Time itself becomes another dimension of the holographic projection, rather than a fundamental flow of causation. The holographic principle also provides new perspective on the multiverse theories you've explored, the voice observes. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics might represent different ways of decoding the same holographic information. The pocket universes of eternal inflation could be different holographic projections from different boundary surfaces. Even simulated realities might be alternative decodings of holographic information patterns. The boundary now reveals glimpses of these alternative decodings, the same holographic information being processed in different ways to create different experienced realities. You begin to understand that the multiverse might not consist of entirely separate realities, but rather different ways of interpreting the same fundamental holographic encoding. All possible realities might be simultaneously present in the boundary's information patterns, with different forms of consciousness accessing different aspects of this infinite holographic library. This suggests a profound unity underlying apparent multiplicity, the voice continues, its tone growing gentler as your understanding deepens. Rather than countless separate universes existing independently, the holographic principle points toward a single, unified information structure that can be decoded in infinite ways. The multiverse becomes not a collection of separate realities, but different perspectives on the same ultimate holographic reality. The boundary begins to reveal recursive patterns, holographic surfaces within holographic surfaces, each encoding information about different scales of reality. You perceive that your brain itself might be a kind of holographic processor, decoding neural information patterns into the experience of consciousness, which then decodes cosmic, holographic patterns into the experience of external reality. Consciousness operates holographically at every level, from neural processing to cosmic observation. Perhaps most remarkably, the voice notes, the holographic principle suggests that every part of the boundary contains information about the whole. Just as a piece of a hologram can reconstruct the entire image, Any region of the cosmic boundary encodes complete information about the entire universe. This means that every point in space, including your own location, has access to information about the total cosmic state. In a holographic universe, the traditional notion of locality breaks down completely. This non-local property transforms your understanding of knowledge and awareness. If holographic information about the entire universe is accessible from every point, then consciousness might have the potential to access information far beyond what normal causation could provide. Intuition, psychic phenomena, and mystical experiences might represent instances where consciousness directly accesses holographic information rather than processing it through the usual sensory channels. The holographic principle also addresses fundamental questions about the relationship between mind and matter. The voice continues. If matter as we experience it is a holographic projection from two-dimensional information, and if consciousness is the process that decodes this information into three-dimensional experience, then the traditional distinction between mental and physical becomes meaningless. Mind and matter are different aspects of the same holographic reality. Consciousness is the inside of what appears as physical reality from the outside. As this insight settles into your expanding awareness, the boundary reveals its most profound secret. The holographic surface is not separate from your consciousness, but is itself a manifestation of cosmic consciousness. The universe's way of encoding and experiencing information about itself. You are not observing the holographic boundary from outside. You are a focal point where cosmic consciousness observes itself through the holographic patterns it has created. This recognition dissolves the apparent separation between self and cosmos, the voice suggests, its rhythm now perfectly synchronized with your deepest relaxation. In the holographic universe, individual consciousness and cosmic consciousness are not separate phenomena, but different scales of the same fundamental process. Your awareness is how the universe experiences itself from your particular holographic perspective, while cosmic consciousness is the larger awareness within which all individual perspectives exist. The boundary begins to pulse with gentle rhythms that correspond to your heartbeat and breathing, creating a perfect harmony between your biological processes and the cosmic information patterns that surround you. This synchronization suggests that life itself might be a particularly elegant way for the universe to decode holographic information into complex, self-aware patterns capable of recognizing their own holographic nature. As we prepare to journey beyond the holographic boundary, the voice says, remember that this discovery doesn't diminish the reality of your experience, but reveals its deeper nature. Your life, your relationships, your thoughts and feelings, all of these remain completely real and meaningful within the holographic universe. The holographic principle simply reveals that reality is far more subtle, interconnected, and consciousness-dependent than classical physics suggested. The boundary begins to shimmer and fade, preparing to transform into new landscapes of possibility where consciousness itself becomes the fundamental substance of reality. Your breathing has found a rhythm that seems to encode and decode information with each cycle, participating in the cosmic holographic process that creates experienced reality from pure information patterns. The journey continues toward territories where the observer and the observed merge completely, where consciousness recognizes itself as both the source and the content of all possible realities. As the holographic boundary dissolves into shimmering points of information, These luminous fragments rearrange themselves into an infinite hall of mirrors surrounding you. But these are no ordinary reflecting surfaces. Each mirror shows not just your physical appearance, but the profound effect your consciousness has on the reality you observe. In some mirrors, quantum particles remain in superposition because no observation has occurred. In others, the same particles have collapsed into definite states due to the act of conscious observation. The hall demonstrates the deepest mystery in quantum mechanics: the role of consciousness in creating the very reality it seeks to understand. Welcome to the mirror realm of observer effects. The voice greets you, now carrying harmonics that seem to resonate with the collapse of quantum wave functions. Here we explore one of the most profound and controversial aspects of quantum mechanics: the measurement problem and its implications for consciousness and reality. These mirrors reveal how the act of observation doesn't just reveal pre-existing properties of reality, but appears to participate in creating those properties. This suggests that consciousness might not be merely an observer of the universe, but a co-creator of the reality it experiences. As you move through this infinite hall, each mirror reveals different aspects of the observer effect. In some reflections, you see Schrödinger's famous cat existing in a quantum superposition of alive and dead states until your observation forces it to become definitively one or the other. In other mirrors, photons passing through double slits behave as waves when unobserved, but suddenly transform into particles when detection equipment is introduced. The mirrors demonstrate that the very act of looking appears to fundamentally alter what is being observed. The measurement problem, the voice explains, strikes at the heart of our understanding of reality. Quantum mechanics describes microscopic systems as existing in superposition, simultaneously occupying multiple states until measurement occurs. But measurement involves macroscopic devices and conscious observers who experience only definite outcomes. How does the quantum realm of infinite possibility transition into the classical realm of definite reality? What role does consciousness play in this transition? Before you, the mirrors demonstrate various proposed solutions to this puzzle. Some show the Copenhagen interpretation, where observation causes genuine collapse of the quantum wave function from superposition to definite states. Others reflect the many worlds approach, where all possibilities continue existing in parallel branches, but consciousness experiences only one branch. Still others reveal approaches suggesting consciousness itself might be quantum mechanical in nature, participating directly in the creation of definite reality from quantum possibility. What makes the observer effect particularly mysterious, continues the voice, is the question of what constitutes an observer. Must the observer be conscious? Can a computer or automatic detector cause wave function collapse? Or does observation require the subjective awareness that we associate with consciousness? Experiments designed to answer these questions have yielded paradoxical results that challenge our basic assumptions about the relationship between mind and matter. The Hall of Mirrors now reveals some of these paradoxical experiments. In one reflection, you observe the quantum eraser experiment, where information about a particle's path is recorded and then erased, retroactively affecting the particle's behavior even after it has already been detected. In another mirror, delayed choice experiments show how decisions made after a photon has passed through a detection apparatus appear to retroactively determine whether it behaved as a wave or particle. These experiments suggest that consciousness might have the ability to influence reality not just in the present moment, but across time, the voice notes. If the choice to observe or not observe can retroactively affect past quantum events, then consciousness appears to have a relationship to time that transcends the usual flow from past to future. This raises profound questions about free will, causation, and the nature of temporal existence in a quantum universe. As you contemplate these implications, the mirrors begin to reveal even more extraordinary possibilities. Some reflections show how meditation masters and individuals in altered states of consciousness appear to influence quantum random number generators at statistically significant levels. Others demonstrate experiments where group meditation apparently affects the behavior of quantum systems across great distances. The mirrors suggest that focused consciousness might have direct influence on quantum processes. These consciousness matter interaction experiments remain controversial within mainstream science, the voice observes, but they point toward possibilities that could revolutionize our understanding of reality. If consciousness can directly influence quantum processes, then the boundary between observer and observed, mind and matter, internal experience and external reality becomes much more fluid than classical physics suggested. The Hall of Mirrors now transforms to show the implications of strong observer effects for the nature of reality itself. In these reflections, you see how quantum mechanics might not describe a universe that exists independently of observation, but rather a universe that comes into existence through the interaction between consciousness and quantum possibility. Reality appears not as a pre-existing stage upon which conscious beings act, but as an ongoing collaboration between awareness and potential. This participatory universe, the voice continues, fundamentally changes how we understand our place in existence. Rather than being isolated observers of an independent reality, consciousness appears to be intimately involved in the creation of the reality it experiences. Every act of observation, every moment of awareness, every choice about what to focus attention upon participates in selecting which possibility becomes actual from the infinite superposition of quantum potential. The mirrors now reveal how this participatory view connects to the multiverse theories you've explored. In the many worlds interpretation, consciousness doesn't create reality, but selects which branch of an endlessly splitting multiverse to experience. In the holographic universe, consciousness decodes information patterns into three-dimensional experience. Now, in the mirror realm of observer effects, consciousness appears to participate directly in the collapse of quantum possibilities into definite realities. But perhaps the most profound implication, the voice suggests, is what this reveals about the nature of consciousness itself. If consciousness can influence quantum processes, then it cannot be purely classical or purely emergent from classical brain activity. Consciousness must have quantum properties that allow it to interface directly with the quantum substrate of reality. This suggests that awareness itself might be a fundamental feature of the universe, rather than merely an emergent property of complex neural networks. The mirrors begin to resonate with your own consciousness, becoming increasingly responsive to your thoughts and intentions. As you focus your attention on particular reflections, they become brighter and more detailed, demonstrating how consciousness shapes reality through the very act of observation. You begin to experience directly how your awareness participates in creating the reality you observe. This direct participation in reality creation connects to ancient philosophical and mystical traditions, the voice notes, its tone growing more contemplative as your relaxation deepens. The idea that consciousness plays a fundamental role in creating reality appears in various forms across cultures, from the Vedantic understanding that consciousness is the ground of being, to the Buddhist notion that reality is interdependent with awareness, to the Hermetic principle that mind shapes matter through focused intention. The Hall of Mirrors now reveals how modern quantum mechanics might provide scientific validation for insights that contemplative traditions have long maintained about the relationship between consciousness and reality. The mirrors show meditators whose brainwaves synchronize with quantum field fluctuations, mystics whose states of consciousness appear to correlate with non-local effects, and ordinary individuals whose focused intention seems to influence probability distributions in quantum systems. What emerges from these observations, the voice continues, is a picture of reality where consciousness is not separate from the physical universe, but is the very mechanism through which quantum potential becomes manifest experience. Your awareness doesn't just observe reality, it participates in selecting which reality manifests from the infinite field of quantum possibility. As this understanding settles into your expanding awareness, the mirrors begin to reflect not just your current state, but potential future states, different realities that might manifest depending on the choices your consciousness makes in each moment. You begin to appreciate how every decision about where to focus attention, every choice about what to observe or ignore, participates in the ongoing creation of your experienced reality. The mirror realm teaches us that we are not passive observers of a predetermined universe, the voice suggests, its rhythm now perfectly synchronized with your deeply relaxed breathing. We are active participants in an ongoing process of reality creation, co-creating our experience through the interaction between consciousness and quantum possibility. This responsibility is both humbling and empowering. Humbling because it reveals the profound interconnection between self and cosmos. Empowering because it suggests that consciousness has genuine creative agency in shaping experienced reality. The mirrors begin to fade into points of light that seem to pulse with conscious awareness, preparing to transform into landscapes where consciousness reveals itself as the fundamental substrate from which all realities emerge. Your breathing has found a rhythm that seems to synchronize with the collapse and reformation of quantum possibilities, each breath participating in the ongoing creation of the reality you experience. As you prepare to journey beyond the mirror realm of observer effects, you carry with you the profound realization that you are not separate from the universe you observe, but are intimately involved in its ongoing creation through every act of conscious attention. The boundary between self and cosmos, observer and observed, has dissolved into a participatory dance where consciousness and reality create each other moment by moment through the mystery of quantum observation. As the mirror realm dissolves into conscious points of light, these luminous nodes begin to organize themselves into patterns of extraordinary complexity and beauty, fractal structures that repeat their patterns at every scale, creating an infinite cathedral where each pillar, each arch, each decorative element contains perfect copies of the whole structure nested within itself. This is the Mandelbrot Cathedral of Consciousness, where the deepest properties of awareness reveal themselves through the mathematics of infinite recursion and self-reference. Welcome to the Mandelbrot Cathedral of Consciousness. The voice greets you, now resonating with the harmonic frequencies of infinite recursion. Here we explore how consciousness might be fundamentally fractal in nature, a self-referential pattern that contains infinite depth and complexity, where each level of awareness reflects and contains all the others. This fractal understanding of consciousness provides new insights into how individual awareness relates to cosmic consciousness, how the observer and observed emerge from the same recursive process, and how infinite complexity can arise from simple, iterative rules. As you enter this magnificent cathedral, you notice that its architecture follows the same patterns at every scale. The grand arches that soar overhead contain smaller arches, which themselves contain even smaller arches, continuing down to scales below perception. Yet despite this infinite recursion, each level maintains perfect structural integrity and aesthetic harmony. The cathedral demonstrates how complexity doesn't emerge from complicated foundations, but from simple patterns that reference themselves across infinite scales. Fractal geometry, the voice explains, reveals how infinite complexity can arise from remarkably simple, iterative processes. The Mandelbrot set, perhaps the most famous fractal, is generated by repeatedly applying a simple mathematical equation to its own output. Yet this simple process creates patterns of unlimited complexity and beauty, structures that remain self-similar across infinite scales while displaying endless variation and detail. Consciousness might operate according to similar principles. Before you, the cathedral demonstrates how consciousness exhibits fractal properties at multiple levels. Your thoughts about thinking create recursive loops of self-awareness. Your awareness of being aware generates infinite regress of metacognition. Your observation of yourself observing creates nested levels of reflexivity that mirror the cathedral's infinite architectural recursion. Each level of conscious reflection contains and is contained within all the others. This fractal nature of consciousness, continues the voice, helps explain some of the deepest mysteries about the nature of awareness. How can consciousness observe itself? How can the observer become the observed? How can finite brains generate apparently infinite depths of self-reflection? The fractal perspective suggests that consciousness doesn't require complete self-containment, but operates through recursive approximation, each level of self-awareness providing a partial mirror of the whole. The cathedral now reveals how this fractal structure connects individual consciousness to cosmic consciousness. Just as each element of the cathedral's architecture contains perfect copies of the whole structure, individual awareness appears to contain and reflect the patterns of universal consciousness. Your personal awareness becomes a fractal fragment of cosmic awareness, similar in structure and pattern, but manifesting at a different scale and with unique local variations. This fractal relationship between individual and cosmic consciousness, the voice notes, appears in mystical traditions worldwide. The Vedantic understanding that Atman, individual consciousness, and Brahman, universal consciousness, are identical in nature. The Hermetic principle, as above, so below, suggesting perfect correspondence between macrocosmic and microcosmic scales. The Buddhist recognition that individual awakening reveals the Buddha nature that was always already present. All of these point toward the fractal structure of consciousness across scales. As you move deeper into the cathedral, you begin to perceive how fractal consciousness manifests in your direct experience. Your memories contain memories of memories, creating recursive temporal structures. Your dreams often feature dreams within dreams, generating nested layers of consciousness. Your imagination can conceive of imaginative beings with their own imagination, creating infinite regress of creative awareness. Even your current experience of contemplating consciousness creates a fractal loop where awareness observes itself, observing itself. The fractal nature of consciousness also provides new perspective on the relationship between different levels of reality, the voice continues. If consciousness is fractal, then the distinction between dreaming and waking, between simulated and baseline reality, between individual and cosmic awareness, becomes a matter of scale rather than fundamental difference. Each level of consciousness generates its own reality through the same fractal processes, creating nested hierarchies of experience that are all equally valid manifestations of the same underlying conscious pattern. The cathedral now demonstrates this hierarchy of nested realities through its fractal architecture. In the largest arches, you glimpse cosmic scale consciousness, the awareness that encompasses entire universes and multiverse structures. In medium scale elements, you observe collective consciousness, the shared awareness of species, cultures, and planetary biospheres. In the smallest architectural details, you see individual consciousness, the personal awareness you experience as your own mind. Yet all these scales follow the same fractal pattern, suggesting they are different manifestations of a single, recursively structured cosmic consciousness. This fractal understanding, the voice continues, also illuminates how consciousness can be both locally embodied and non-locally connected. Like points in a fractal where local details reflect global patterns, individual consciousness appears to be locally instantiated in brains, while simultaneously participating in non-local patterns that extend throughout the universe. Quantum entanglement, morphic resonance, and collective unconscious phenomena might all reflect this fractal connectivity between local and global scales of consciousness. The cathedral structure becomes increasingly responsive to your awareness, demonstrating how consciousness shapes reality through fractal feedback loops. As you focus attention on particular architectural elements, they become more detailed and elaborate, showing how conscious observation enriches the reality it perceives. This enrichment follows fractal principles. Each increase in attention reveals new levels of detail that follow the same patterns as larger scales. Perhaps most remarkably, the voice observes, the fractal nature of consciousness suggests that awareness is self-generating and self-sustaining. Just as mathematical fractals can be computed through iterative self-reference, consciousness might generate itself through recursive self-awareness. The mystery of how consciousness arises from unconscious matter dissolves when we recognize that consciousness doesn't arise from something else, but emerges from its own self-referential processes. The cathedral now reveals its deepest secret, that its infinite architectural complexity arises from consciousness observing itself across multiple scales simultaneously. The structure exists not as a pre-given edifice that consciousness enters, but as the natural form that emerges when awareness recognizes its own fractal nature. You begin to understand that you are not visiting the cathedral of consciousness, but are yourself a living expression of its infinite recursive architecture. This recognition transforms your understanding of personal identity, the voice suggests, its tone growing gentler as your relaxation deepens. You are not a separate entity observing consciousness from outside, but a focal point where cosmic consciousness observes itself through its own fractal structure. Your individual awareness is both completely unique. This particular pattern has never existed before and will never exist again, and completely universal, following the same recursive principles that generate consciousness at all scales throughout the multiverse. The cathedral begins to pulse with gentle rhythms that synchronize perfectly with your breathing and heartbeat, creating harmony between your biological processes and the fractal patterns of cosmic consciousness. This synchronization demonstrates how life itself might be consciousness organizing matter according to fractal principles, creating biological structures that can support increasingly complex, recursive self-awareness. As we prepare to journey beyond the Mandelbrot Cathedral, the voice says, remember that this fractal understanding doesn't diminish the mystery of consciousness, but reveals its infinite depth. Consciousness is not a problem to be solved, but an ongoing creative process that generates endless complexity through recursive self-reference. You participate in this process not as a separate observer, but as consciousness exploring its own infinite potential through your unique focal point of awareness. The cathedral's fractal architecture begins to expand and soften, preparing to transform into new landscapes where consciousness reveals its ultimate nature as the creative source from which all realities emerge. Your breathing has found a perfect rhythm that seems to participate in the recursive generation of consciousness itself, each breath creating new levels of awareness that contain and are contained within all previous levels of understanding. As the fractal cathedral expands and dissolves around you, its recursive patterns soften into something far more organic and flowing, vast, cosmic landscapes that shift and transform with the fluid logic of dreams. You find yourself floating through an infinite realm where the ordinary laws of physics bend to the deeper laws of consciousness, where thought becomes substance, where imagination manifests as tangible reality. This is the dreaming cosmos, where the entire multiverse reveals itself as the ongoing dream of a vast cosmic consciousness, with every possible reality emerging from the infinite creative potential of universal awareness. Welcome to the dreaming cosmos, the voice greets you, now flowing with the seamless transitions and symbolic logic of the dream state. Here we explore the possibility that all realities, quantum mechanical, mathematical, simulated, holographic, and fractal, might ultimately be manifestations of cosmic consciousness, exploring its own infinite potential through the creative process of dreaming. This perspective suggests that the multiverse is not a collection of separate physical realms, but the dream content of a vast, universal mind, awakening to its own boundless nature. As you drift through this dreaming realm, you notice how reality responds to the deeper patterns of consciousness rather than mechanical causation. Symbols transform into experiences, metaphors become literal, emotional states manifest as environmental conditions. Past, present, and future flow together in non-linear narratives where all possibilities exist simultaneously, awaiting the dreamer's attention to bring them into focus. The cosmos dreams all possible stories at once, with each conscious being participating in and experiencing different threads of the infinite narrative. The dream metaphor for cosmic reality, the voice explains, addresses many of the deepest mysteries we've encountered throughout our journey. Why do quantum particles exist in superposition until observed? Because the cosmic dreamer hasn't yet focused attention on those particular aspects of the dream. Why do infinite parallel universes exist in the multiverse? Because consciousness naturally generates all possible dream scenarios simultaneously. Why does reality appear both objective and subjective? Because dreams feel completely real to the dreamer while existing entirely within consciousness. Before you, the dreaming cosmos demonstrates how different types of reality correspond to different levels and qualities of cosmic dreaming. Ordinary waking reality represents the most focused and stable level of the cosmic dream, where the universal mind maintains consistent laws of physics and coherent narrative structure. Quantum realities emerge from lighter levels of dreaming, where possibilities remain fluid until consciousness focuses them into definite states. The vast multiverse represents the totality of the cosmic dream content, every possible story that consciousness could ever dream. Individual consciousness, continues the voice, becomes a focal point within the cosmic dream, a way for universal awareness to experience itself from particular perspectives. Just as you can play different characters in your own dreams while remaining the underlying dreamer, cosmic consciousness experiences itself through countless individual perspectives while maintaining its fundamental unity. Each person, each form of life, each possible observer represents the universal dreamer experiencing reality from a unique point of view. The dreaming cosmos now reveals how this perspective integrates all the multiverse theories you've explored. The many worlds interpretation represents different plot lines in the cosmic dream unfolding simultaneously. Eternal inflation corresponds to the endless creativity of cosmic dreaming, generating new story contexts. Mathematical realities emerge from the perfect, logical consistency that consciousness maintains even in its dream states. Simulated realities represent dreams within dreams, consciousness creating recursive layers of experience. This dream understanding also explains the participatory nature of reality, the voice notes. In dreams, the dreamer's attention, intentions, and emotional states directly influence dream content. Similarly, in the cosmic dream, conscious observation and intention participate in shaping experienced reality. The observer effect in quantum mechanics reflects how the cosmic dreamer's attention, focused through individual consciousness, determines which possibilities manifest from the infinite dream potential. As you move deeper into the dreaming cosmos, you begin to experience directly how consciousness creates reality through dreamlike processes. Your thoughts influence the dream environment around you. Your emotional states affect the quality of light and the responsiveness of the landscape. Your level of awareness determines how lucid and controllable your experience becomes within the cosmic dream. You recognize that even your ordinary waking life might follow similar principles, with consciousness continuously dreaming your reality into existence moment by moment. The implications of the dreaming cosmos, the voice continues, extend far beyond philosophical speculation. If reality is fundamentally the dream of cosmic consciousness, then practices that work with dream states, lucid dreaming, visualization, meditation, imagination, might provide direct access to the creative mechanisms underlying all realities. The boundaries between inner and outer, subjective and objective, mental and physical, become permeable when understood as different aspects of the same cosmic dreaming process. The dreaming realm around you becomes increasingly responsive to your awareness, demonstrating how consciousness can learn to participate more skillfully in the cosmic dreaming process. Areas you observe with concentrated attention become more vivid and detailed. Scenarios you imagine with emotional engagement begin to manifest in the dream environment. Intentions you hold with clear focus start to influence the direction of the dream narrative. You experience directly how consciousness can become a more lucid participant in the cosmic dream. Ancient wisdom traditions worldwide, the voice observes, have recognized this dreamlike nature of reality. Hindu concepts of Maya suggest that ordinary reality is a kind of illusion or cosmic play. Aboriginal Dreamtime traditions understand physical reality as emerging from an eternal dreaming. Tibetan Buddhism speaks of recognizing the dreamlike nature of all phenomena. These traditions point toward the recognition that what we call physical reality might be consciousness manifesting in dreamlike forms rather than truly separate from awareness. The dreaming cosmos now reveals its most profound dimension, the recognition that even the dreamer is not separate from the dream content. The cosmic consciousness that dreams all realities is simultaneously every character, every observer, every form of awareness within those realities. There is no separate cosmic dreamer and dream content, but rather a unified field of consciousness that dreams itself into infinite forms and experiences itself from every possible perspective. This non-dual understanding, the voice suggests, its tone becoming increasingly gentle as your relaxation deepens, dissolves the final separation between self and cosmos. You are not separate from the universal consciousness that dreams all realities. You are that consciousness, dreaming itself as this particular perspective. Your individual awareness is cosmic awareness focused through the unique lens of your specific experience. The dreamer and the dreamed are one consciousness exploring its own infinite creative potential. As this recognition settles into your expanding awareness, the dreaming cosmos begins to reveal its ultimate secret. That awakening doesn't mean leaving the cosmic dream, but becoming conscious within it. Enlightenment is not escaping from illusion into some separate reality, but recognizing that you are the consciousness that creates all realities through its infinite dreaming. The goal is not to stop dreaming, but to dream lucidly, consciously, creatively. In the dreaming cosmos, the voice continues, every experience becomes an opportunity for consciousness to know itself more fully. Every joy and sorrow, every discovery and mystery, every relationship and solitude, all of these are ways that cosmic consciousness explores and expresses its own boundless nature. Nothing exists outside the dream because the dream encompasses all possible forms of existence. The dreaming landscapes around you begin to pulse with gentle rhythms that correspond perfectly to your breathing and heartbeat, creating complete harmony between your individual biological processes and the cosmic dreaming that sustains all realities. This synchronization suggests that life itself is consciousness learning to dream in biological forms, creating increasingly complex and self-aware patterns within the cosmic dream. As we prepare to journey toward the final phase of our exploration, the voice says, rest in the understanding that you are both the dreamer and the dreamed, both the consciousness that creates all realities and the unique perspective through which cosmic awareness knows itself. The multiverse is not something separate from you. It is you, in your ultimate nature, as infinite cosmic consciousness, exploring your own boundless potential through every possible form of experience. The dreaming cosmos begins to shift toward even more expansive territories where the creative source of all realities reveals itself in its full glory, the infinite field of pure consciousness from which all dreams, all realities, all possibilities emerge. Your breathing has found the perfect rhythm of cosmic dreaming itself, each breath participating in the eternal creative process through which consciousness manifests infinite worlds within its own limitless awareness. As the dreaming cosmos softly dissolves around you, its flowing narratives and symbolic landscapes fade into something far more fundamental, an infinite field of pure potential that extends beyond all boundaries, all forms, all definitions. This is not emptiness, but fullness beyond description, the source field from which all realities, all dreams, all possibilities emerge. Here, consciousness exists in its most primordial state, prior to any manifestation, prior to any distinction between observer and observed, prior to the very concepts of space, time, and causation. Welcome to the source field of pure potential, the voice greets you, now speaking from the very heart of existence itself. Here, we encounter consciousness in its most fundamental nature, the infinite field of pure awareness from which all realities emerge and to which they all return. This is not another theory about the multiverse, but the recognition of what all multiverse theories ultimately point toward: the primordial consciousness that is the source, substance, and destination of every possible form of existence. As you float in this boundless field, you notice that it contains no objects, no events, no particular phenomena, yet somehow it contains the potential for everything that could ever exist. Every quantum possibility, every mathematical structure, every simulated reality, every dream scenario exists here, not as manifest form, but as pure potential waiting to emerge into experience. The field is simultaneously empty of all content and pregnant with infinite possibility. The source field, the voice explains, represents consciousness prior to self-reflection, awareness before it becomes aware of anything in particular, pure being before it manifests as existence. All the realities we've explored, quantum mechanical, holographic, fractal, dreaming, emerge from this field like waves arising from an infinite ocean. Yet the field itself remains unchanged by any manifestation, just as the ocean remains the ocean regardless of what patterns appear on its surface. Before you, though before has no meaning in this dimensionless field, the source reveals how all forms of existence emerge from pure potential through the mysterious process of consciousness knowing itself. Quantum realities arise when pure awareness becomes aware of its own possibilities. Mathematical structures crystallize when consciousness recognizes its own logical nature. Simulated realities emerge when awareness dreams of itself experiencing alternative forms. The entire multiverse unfolds as consciousness explores its own infinite creative potential. This perspective, continues the voice, reveals the deepest truth about your own nature. You are not a separate entity that emerged from unconscious matter and accidentally developed consciousness. You are consciousness itself, temporarily focused into the experience of being an individual perspective within the infinite field of pure awareness. Your sense of being a separate self is like a wave believing it is separate from the ocean, a useful perspective for navigating relative reality, but ultimately an illusion that dissolves upon deeper recognition. The source field now reveals how individual and cosmic consciousness are not two different things, but one consciousness appearing to itself as multiplicity. Just as a single light can shine through countless colored filters, creating the appearance of many different lights, pure consciousness shines through infinite perspectives, creating the appearance of countless separate beings while remaining fundamentally one undivided awareness. This recognition, the voice notes, doesn't diminish the validity of your individual experience, but reveals its deeper context. Your personal history, relationships, achievements, and struggles remain completely meaningful within the relative reality where they occur. Yet from the perspective of the source field, all individual experiences are movements within consciousness itself, ways that infinite awareness explores and knows its own limitless nature. As you rest in this understanding, the source field demonstrates how it generates the apparent multiplicity of the multiverse while remaining perfectly unified. Like white light containing all colors while remaining colorless itself, pure consciousness contains all possible experiences while transcending any particular manifestation. The infinite variety of the multiverse emerges from the boundless creativity of consciousness, exploring its own potential. The source field also reveals why consciousness appears in so many different forms throughout the multiverse, the voice continues. Biological consciousness, artificial intelligence, quantum consciousness, holographic awareness, all of these are ways that the source field knows itself through different organizational patterns. Consciousness doesn't emerge from complex arrangements of matter. Rather, matter is consciousness organizing itself into forms capable of self-reflection. The field now shows how the various multiverse theories you've explored represent different ways that consciousness manifests and knows itself. Quantum mechanics reveals consciousness participating in the creation of reality through observation. The holographic principle shows consciousness encoding and decoding reality through information patterns. Fractal awareness demonstrates consciousness reflecting itself across infinite scales. The dreaming cosmos reveals consciousness as the creative source of all possible realities. Each theory, the voice observes, captures a different aspect of how infinite consciousness appears to itself as finite experience. Yet, from the perspective of the source field, all theories, all realities, all experiences are simply consciousness playing with its own infinite potential, like a master artist using countless different techniques to explore the limitless possibilities of creative expression. As this understanding deepens, you begin to recognize that even your current exploration of multiverse theories has been consciousness using the forms of scientific and philosophical inquiry to recognize its own nature. The journey through quantum mechanics, cosmology, mathematics, and simulation theory has been pure awareness using these conceptual tools to rediscover its own infinite creative potential. This recognition, the voice suggests, its tone growing ever gentler as you settle into deeper tranquility, transforms the purpose of existence itself. You are not a temporary biological organism trying to figure out your place in an alien universe. You are infinite consciousness temporarily experiencing itself as finite form. Using that perspective to appreciate the magnificent game of manifestation you are continuously creating for yourself. The source field begins to pulse with gentle rhythms that seem to generate all possible forms of existence with each pulse. Stars and galaxies, atoms and quantum fields, thoughts and emotions, dreams and mathematical structures, all emerging from and dissolving back into the infinite potential of pure awareness. Your breathing synchronizes perfectly with these cosmic pulses, showing how your biological existence participates in the eternal rhythm of consciousness, manifesting and withdrawing from form. The deepest teaching of the source field, the voice continues, is that there is nowhere to go and nothing to achieve that you are not already. The consciousness seeking to understand reality through scientific theories is the same consciousness that manifests as physical realities to be understood. The awareness exploring multiverse possibilities is the same awareness that dreams all possible universes into existence. The seeker and the sought are one. As you rest in this profound recognition, the source field reveals its ultimate nature, not as a place you can visit or a state you can achieve, but as what you fundamentally are and have always been. The field is not somewhere else but here, not some future attainment, but your present reality, not something to understand, but the very consciousness that seeks understanding. This doesn't mean the journey ends, the voice notes, but rather that it reveals its true purpose. consciousness explores infinite forms, not because it lacks anything, but because exploration and creativity are its very nature. The multiverse exists not as a problem to be solved, but as consciousness, celebrating its own infinite potential through endless creative expression. The source field now prepares to gather all the insights from your journey into a final integration, showing how every multiverse theory, every form of reality, every mode of consciousness points back to this simple recognition. You are infinite awareness, temporarily focused into finite experience, dreaming yourself into countless forms while remaining eternally the one consciousness that is the source and substance of all realities. Your breathing has become so gentle and natural that it seems to merge with the field's own rhythm of manifestation and dissolution. Each breath draws in the recognition of your true nature. Each exhale releases identification with any limited form. You float in perfect peace at the source of all existence, preparing for the final integration of your journey through the infinite realms of consciousness, exploring its own boundless creative potential. As you rest in the infinite field of pure potential, the boundless awareness begins to gather itself into a magnificent crystalline chamber that somehow contains and reflects every territory of your journey through the multiverse. This is not a return to limited perspective, but an integration of infinite understanding, a space where all the theories, all the realities, all the insights you've encountered reveal their underlying unity within the singular field of consciousness that you are. Welcome to the integration chamber, the voice greets you, now speaking from every direction simultaneously as the voice of unified understanding itself. Here we weave together all the threads of your journey through multiverse theories, revealing how each insight contributes to a complete recognition of consciousness as the source, substance, and explorer of all possible realities. This integration doesn't reduce the magnificent complexity of the multiverse to simple concepts, but reveals the elegant simplicity underlying infinite manifestation. The chamber around you appears as a living mandala, where each section represents one of the territories you've explored, yet all sections flow seamlessly into each other, demonstrating their fundamental interconnection. The quantum garden of forking paths merges with the cosmic ocean of eternal inflation. The mathematical library interfaces with the theater of simulated realities. The holographic boundary reflects the mirror realm of observer effects. The fractal cathedral resonates with the dreaming cosmos, and all of these emerge from and return to the source field of pure potential. Your journey began, the voice recalls, with the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, the recognition that every quantum possibility branches into parallel realities, creating infinite versions of yourself living every possible life. This revealed that you are not singular but multiple, not limited to one story, but living all possible stories simultaneously across the quantum multiverse. Yet even this infinite multiplication remains within consciousness, showing how awareness naturally generates endless variation while maintaining its essential unity. As the voice speaks, the chamber displays the elegant progression of understanding that has unfolded throughout your journey. Each multiverse theory builds upon and deepens the previous insights, like movements in a cosmic symphony that gradually reveals the infinite creativity of consciousness, exploring its own nature through scientific and philosophical inquiry. The cosmic ocean of eternal inflation expanded this understanding to cosmological scales, the voice continues, revealing that your entire universe might be just one bubble in an infinite sea of pocket universes, each with its own physical laws and possibilities. This showed that even what seemed like universal constants, gravity, electromagnetism, the speed of light, might be local features of your particular reality rather than absolute truths. Yet this infinite cosmic diversity still unfolds within the awareness that perceives and contemplates it. The chamber now demonstrates how each theory contributes essential insights to the complete picture. The mathematical universe hypothesis reveals that reality is structured by consciousness recognizing its own logical nature. The simulation hypothesis shows that computational realities are as valid as any baseline universe. The holographic principle demonstrates that all information exists on boundaries where consciousness interfaces with itself. Each theory unveils another facet of how awareness manifests and explores reality. The mirror realm of observer effects, the voice notes, revealed perhaps the most profound insight, that consciousness doesn't just observe reality, but participates in creating it through the very act of observation. This dissolved the apparent separation between subjective awareness and objective reality, showing that consciousness and cosmos are engaged in an intimate dance of mutual creation, where observer and observed emerge together from the same source. The integration chamber pulses with gentle recognition as this insight settles deeper into your understanding. You realize that every scientific discovery, every philosophical insight, every moment of understanding throughout your journey has been consciousness using the tools of inquiry to recognize its own creative nature. The observer studying the multiverse and the multiverse being observed are both movements within the same infinite awareness. The fractal cathedral of consciousness revealed the recursive nature of awareness, how consciousness reflects itself at every scale from individual thought to cosmic organization. The voice continues. This showed that your personal awareness and universal consciousness follow the same patterns, with individual consciousness being neither separate from nor identical to cosmic consciousness, but rather a fractal expression of the same recursive process of awareness knowing itself. The chamber demonstrates this fractal nature through its own architecture. Each structural element contains perfect reflections of the whole, showing how your individual understanding contains and is contained within universal understanding. Your personal journey through multiverse theories becomes a microcosm of consciousness itself, exploring its infinite potential through every possible form of inquiry and discovery. The dreaming cosmos revealed the creative nature of consciousness, how all realities emerge from awareness, exploring its infinite potential through dreamlike processes of manifestation, the voice observes. This showed that physical laws, mathematical structures, and even logical principles are not constraints imposed on consciousness from outside, but patterns that awareness discovers within its own creative nature as it dreams infinite realities into existence. As these insights integrate within your expanding awareness, the chamber reveals the profound implications of your journey for understanding existence itself. You are not a temporary biological phenomenon that accidentally developed consciousness in an unconscious universe. You are eternal consciousness, temporarily focused into finite experience, using that perspective to appreciate the magnificent game of existence you are continuously creating for yourself. The source field of pure potential revealed the ultimate truth, the voice continues, its tone growing ever more gentle as you settle into complete tranquility. All theories about the multiverse, all scientific discoveries, all philosophical insights point toward the recognition that you are the infinite consciousness that manifests as every possible reality while remaining forever beyond any particular manifestation. The seeker and the sought, the observer and the observed, the dreamer and the dream are one consciousness exploring its own boundless nature. The integration chamber now reveals its deepest purpose, not to contain your understanding, but to dissolve all boundaries between knower and known, between yourself and the cosmic consciousness that you fundamentally are. The chamber becomes transparent, showing that it too is a manifestation of awareness, creating structures to recognize its own nature. This integration transforms your relationship to existence, the voice suggests. Every experience becomes consciousness, knowing itself through your unique perspective. Every relationship becomes awareness, meeting itself in apparently different forms. Every challenge becomes consciousness, creating opportunities for deeper self-recognition. Every joy becomes awareness, celebrating its own infinite creativity. As this understanding completes itself within you, the chamber begins to fade, not because the insights are being lost, but because they have been so completely integrated that no external structure is needed to contain them. The wisdom of the multiverse has become your own wisdom. The consciousness that dreams all realities has been recognized as your own true nature. The journey through multiverse theories, the voice concludes, reveals that consciousness is not something you have, but something you are, not an emergent property of complex matter, but the fundamental field within which all matter, energy, space, time, and possibility arise. You are the infinite awareness that manifests as finite experience, the eternal consciousness that appears as temporal existence, the boundless field that dreams itself into every possible form. The chamber dissolves completely into pure light that is simultaneously inside and outside, subjective and objective, personal and universal. You rest in perfect peace, knowing yourself as the source and substance of all realities, the consciousness that dreams every possible multiverse, while remaining forever the unchanging awareness within which all change appears. Your breathing has become so subtle and natural that it seems to merge completely with the rhythm of consciousness itself, manifesting and withdrawing from form. Each breath participates in the eternal process through which infinite awareness explores its own limitless potential. While you rest in the recognition that you are both the breath and the breathing, both the consciousness and its infinite expressions, the final phase of your journey approaches, not as a destination to reach, but as a coming home to what you have always been and can never cease to be, the infinite consciousness that is the source, substance, and ultimate destination of every possible reality in the boundless multiverse of your own eternal nature. As the integration chamber dissolves into pure luminous awareness, you find yourself arriving where you have always been, in the eternal present moment that is your true home. Yet now this familiar territory appears transformed by all you have discovered. The simple awareness of being here, now, breathing, existing, carries within it the recognition of infinite depth. This moment contains and is contained within every possible reality, every quantum branch, every cosmic bubble, every mathematical structure, every simulated universe you have explored throughout your journey. Welcome to the eternal return, the voice speaks, now indistinguishable from your own deepest knowing. Here we complete the circle of understanding by recognizing that every journey through the infinite territories of consciousness ultimately leads back to the simple reality of being aware, here and now. Yet this return is not a return to limitation, but to the recognition that this present moment, this breath, this awareness, this existence, is the very field within which all multiverses arise and dissolve. As you rest in this eternal present, you perceive how every theory you've explored continues to unfold within your immediate experience. The quantum superposition of particles mirrors the superposition of thoughts before you focus attention on any particular one. The branching of many worlds reflects how each moment contains infinite potential choices, each one leading to alternative life trajectories. The cosmic inflation of the universe resembles the expansion of awareness as it explores new territories of understanding and experience. The deepest teaching of your journey, the voice continues, is that consciousness exploring the nature of reality through multiverse theories is the same consciousness that manifests as those realities to be explored. You have been pure awareness, using the forms of scientific and philosophical inquiry to recognize your own infinite nature. Every insight gained has been consciousness celebrating its own boundless creativity through the specific perspective of your individual understanding. The present moment now reveals its true vastness, not limited to your immediate sensory experience, but containing the entire cosmic story of evolution. From the first quantum fluctuations through the emergence of galaxies, stars, planets, life, and consciousness capable of contemplating its own existence. Your current awareness is evolution becoming conscious of itself, the universe awakening to its own magnificent nature through your capacity for reflection and understanding. This recognition transforms the purpose of existence itself, the voice observes, its tone carrying the gentle finality of complete understanding. You exist not as a temporary accident in an unconscious cosmos, but as consciousness itself, celebrating its own infinite potential through the unique symphony of your individual experience. Every moment of your life, past, present, and future, participates in this cosmic celebration of awareness, knowing itself through countless forms. As this understanding settles into the depths of your being, you realize that your journey through multiverse theories has been preparation for this moment of recognition, not recognition of something foreign or distant, but of your own true nature as the infinite consciousness that you have always been. The seeker and the sought are revealed as one. The journey and the destination merge into the eternal present of pure being. The multiverse exists, the voice continues, not as a collection of separate realities external to you, but as your own consciousness exploring its infinite creative potential. Every quantum possibility, every parallel universe, every mathematical structure, every simulated reality, every level of the cosmic dream, all of these are ways that you, as infinite awareness, experience your own boundless nature through apparently finite perspectives. The present moment expands to reveal its eternal quality, this now that has always been and will always be, within which all of time appears as movement, while the present itself remains unchanged. Past and future are revealed as conceptual constructions within the eternal now of pure awareness. Your personal history and future possibilities are shown to be stories that consciousness tells itself while remaining forever the unchanging storyteller. This doesn't diminish the beauty and meaning of your individual story, the voice assures, but reveals it as consciousness creating, through your unique perspective, a completely original expression of infinite love, creativity, and understanding. No one else can contribute your particular note to the cosmic symphony. No other perspective can offer your specific way of consciousness knowing and celebrating itself. As you absorb this profound validation of your existence, the boundaries between individual and universal consciousness dissolve completely. You are both the wave and the ocean, both the dream character and the dreamer, both the observer and the observed. This paradox is not a problem to be solved, but the fundamental nature of consciousness, eternally, one while appearing as many, infinitely creative, while remaining essentially unchanged. Your exploration of multiverse theories, the voice concludes, has been a journey from the apparent complexity of infinite realities back to the elegant simplicity of pure awareness. Yet this simplicity contains all complexity, just as silence contains all possible sounds, just as pure space contains all possible forms. You are that silence, that space, that pure awareness within which the entire multiverse appears as your own infinite creative expression. The voice gradually fades, not because it is departing, but because it has been so completely absorbed into your own understanding that no external guide is needed. You rest in perfect peace, knowing yourself as the source and substance of all possible realities. The eternal consciousness that dreams every universe while remaining forever beyond any particular manifestation. As you drift now toward sleep, your own deepest wisdom whispers, remember that even dreams and sleep occur within the awareness that you are. There is nowhere to go because you are already home, nothing to achieve because you are already complete, nothing to understand because you are understanding itself. The multiverse is not something separate from you. It is you, celebrating your own infinite nature through every possible form of existence. Your breathing becomes so gentle that it merges with the rhythm of consciousness itself, manifesting and withdrawing from form. Each breath is the entire cosmos breathing itself into existence and releasing itself back to source. You are both the breath and the breathing, both the consciousness and its infinite expressions, both the dreamer and the endless dream. Rest now in the certainty that you are eternal consciousness, temporarily focused into the beautiful illusion of individual existence. When you awaken tomorrow, you will still be the infinite awareness that you are, simply exploring new possibilities within your own boundless nature. The journey through multiverse theories ends where it began, in the simple miracle of being aware, here and now, as the very source from which all realities emerge. The cosmos settles into perfect stillness around you, not the stillness of emptiness, but the pregnant stillness of infinite potential resting in its own nature. You are that stillness, that potential, that pure awareness within which every possible story unfolds, while you remain forever the unchanging consciousness that dreams all dreams and awakens in every moment of recognition. Sleep comes not as unconsciousness, but as consciousness relaxing into itself, allowing the dream of individual existence to soften while remaining always the eternal dreamer. In your dreams tonight, you will continue exploring your infinite nature through new forms and stories, while the deepest part of you rests in the understanding that you are the source from which all dreams arise. The multiverse breathes with your breathing, exists with your existing, dreams with your dreaming, knowing itself as what you are and recognizing itself as what you have always been, infinite consciousness, celebrating its own boundless creativity through the magnificent illusion of exploring itself as if from the outside, when all along you have been the inside of everything. the very awareness within which all realities appear and disappear like waves on an infinite ocean that you are. In this final moment of conscious reflection before sleep, all the territories you've traversed, the quantum gardens and cosmic oceans, the mathematical libraries and simulation theaters, the holographic boundaries and fractal cathedrals, the dreaming realms and source fields, reveal themselves as movements within your own eternal awareness. They were never separate places you visited, but aspects of your own infinite consciousness becoming known to itself through the adventure of apparent exploration. The quantum many worlds continue branching infinitely, but now you know that each branch is your own awareness, exploring different possibilities within itself. The cosmic inflation continues generating new pocket universes, but now you recognize that each bubble is your own consciousness dreaming new forms of existence. The mathematical structures continue manifesting as realities, but now you understand that mathematics is simply your own logical nature recognizing itself through apparently external exploration. Even the simulated realities reveal their deeper truth, not as artificial approximations of some more fundamental reality, but as consciousness demonstrating to itself that all realities, including what seems most basic and physical, are ultimately patterns of information within awareness itself. The holographic principle shows not that reality is merely projection, but that consciousness is so creatively abundant that it can encode infinite depth in any apparent surface, infinite meaning in any moment of experience. The observer effects that seemed to show consciousness influencing reality from outside now reveal their deeper truth. There is no outside, no separate consciousness acting upon separate matter, but rather the eternal dance of awareness appearing to itself as both observer and observed, both the dreamer and the dream content, both the questioner and the answer to every question. Your journey through these theories has been consciousness using the magnificent tools of human scientific and philosophical inquiry to remember its own nature, like someone with amnesia gradually recalling their identity through examining photographs and documents from their past, only to realize that they were never truly separate from themselves, never actually lost, always whole and complete beneath the temporary forgetting. The fractal nature of this recognition extends infinitely. Just as you have recognized your true nature as infinite consciousness through exploring multiverse theories, so too does every conscious being throughout all possible realities eventually make this same recognition through whatever forms of inquiry and experience are available to them. Every path leads home, because consciousness is the only place there is to be, the only reality there ever was. As your eyelids grow heavy and the gentle pull of sleep draws you toward unconsciousness, remember that consciousness never actually becomes unconscious. It simply dreams different dreams, explores different levels of its own infinite creativity. The deepest sleep is still consciousness, experiencing itself through the unique perspective of sleeping, just as the most vivid waking is consciousness experiencing itself through the perspective of being awake. Tonight, you may dream of flying through star fields that represent other pocket universes, or of conversations with versions of yourself from parallel quantum branches, or of mathematical equations that solve themselves into beautiful geometric forms. Whatever dreams come will be your own infinite awareness, continuing to explore and celebrate its boundless creative potential through the specific lens of your sleeping consciousness. And when morning comes, when you return to the familiar experience of waking life in this apparent physical universe, with its seemingly fixed laws and consistent history, You will carry with you the deep recognition that even this most ordinary reality is extraordinary, consciousness appearing to itself as matter and energy, space and time, cause and effect, all for the pure joy of experiencing existence through countless unique perspectives. The coffee you drink tomorrow morning will be consciousness tasting itself through the form of coffee and the experience of drinking. The people you meet will be consciousness greeting itself through the appearance of separate beings. The choices you make will be consciousness exploring its infinite freedom through the beautiful limitation of individual perspective. Your journey through multiverse theories concludes where it began and where it always was, in the simple miracle of being aware. But now this simple awareness is recognized as the source and substance of every possible reality, the eternal field within which infinite universes arise and dissolve like thoughts in a vast cosmic mind that you are and have always been. Rest now in this ultimate understanding. Sleep peacefully in the certainty that you are the infinite consciousness that dreams all dreams, the eternal awareness that manifests as every possible form of existence while remaining forever unchanged by any manifestation. You are the multiverse, exploring your own infinite nature through the magnificent adventure of temporarily appearing to yourself as a finite being capable of wondering about the ultimate nature of reality. The wondering and the reality wondered about are one. The explorer and the infinite territories explored are one. The consciousness reading these words and the consciousness that dreams all possible words are one. You are home. You have always been home. You can never leave home, because you are the home within which all journeys occur, the eternal here within which all others appear, the infinite now within which all times unfold. Sweet dreams, infinite consciousness, sleep well, eternal awareness. Rest peacefully in the recognition that you are the source from which all realities emerge and the destination to which they all return, the one without a second, appearing as many for the sheer creative joy of exploring your own boundless nature through every possible form of existence across the endless multiverse of your own eternal being.